Welcome to the BBC World Service. Today's episode of Ethnic and Cultural Diversity is brought to you by me, Just Investigating. I have brought three guests that all came to the UK at different times from different parts of the world. Of course, people have always immigrated to the UK, but the amount saw a great increase in the 1950s. This podcast episode will focus on the immigration to the UK from the 1950s up until the 1970s, as well as the reason for immigration at these times. Our first guest, Maulana Mohammed Bastan Al-Qadri, came to the UK in the 1950s. Our second guest immigrated to the UK from Hong Kong, China. He runs a restaurant and studied graphic design. Thank you for joining us, Kwai Lee. The last guest to join us immigrated from Uganda in the 1970s to chase his dreams of becoming a doctor. Please welcome Nevin Thakra. First, I will give every guest the chance to share a bit of their story. Mr. Maulana, would you like to start? Thank you, Justin, for this opportunity to share my experience as an immigrant. I came to England because I had read a lot about its history and wanted to help other immigrants. Wow, that is very honorable. Would you mind telling us what you did before coming to England? I used to work as an administrator of mosques, but after coming to England, I became a textiles factory worker and a member of several Muslim organizations. And what was your experience coming to the UK? When I first came to England, I was welcomed by very helpful people. I had good relations with my neighbors. It was very peaceful all around. However, I also faced many challenges with the language and immigration processes. Additionally, after a wave of unemployment, there was a lot of negativity towards immigrants, which was made even worse by the media. But despite all of this, I always believed that immigrants make this country richer and that the problems that immigration brings can all be fixed. Thank you so much, Mr. Maulana. What a powerful story. Now, Kwai, you came to England a little later, around the 1960s, which makes me curious whether your experience was any different.
Well, thank you, Justin. I came to England in the year 1966 from Hong Kong. I actually came to join my father, who was building a restaurant here. Back in Hong Kong, I was still a kid, so obviously I had no occupation. But here in the UK, I studied graphic design and worked in my father's restaurant. My education here was actually quite good. I had a good time and was supported to learn English very fast. But outside of school, things were a bit more difficult. It was very hard to integrate into the community. I actually experienced racism from all kinds of people, but mostly from younger citizens and police officers. I also experienced harassment and disruption at work. In hindsight, integration is probably even harder for people who aren't fluent in the language or don't speak it at all. Additionally, getting included in a community is very hard if you are a minority. Institutional racism also doesn't make this easier, but at least they try to address that issue with the Race Relations Act in 1965 and 1968. Which at least made people reflect their actions.
Thank you, Kwai. Those are very important insights. Now, let's hear from our third guest, Nevin, who came to the UK under very different circumstances, fleeing Uganda in the 1970s. Nevin, please tell us your story.
Thank you, Justin. I arrived on an icy October night in 1972 at the age of 24. I was one of 80,000 Ugandan Asians who were expelled from the East African country by the military ruler Idi Amin. Around 1 in 30,000 of us went to the UK. The situation was very dangerous. There were many checkpoints where they would take money from people coming back from the hospital, and I once was taken away by the military. My father also told me to leave the country, and so I did. I left. Back in Uganda, I had been a doctor. I even delivered twin babies to a soldier. When I arrived in the UK, I started as a pediatric register at a hospital in Newcastle, earning about $2,100 a year. In 1976, I moved to London and became a GP. Now I run my own successful practice, and at 62, I have no intentions of retiring. When I first landed, I was taken to an RAF reception. I had to queue up for food with a plate in my hands, and I honestly couldn't see myself in that situation. I went back to my room and cried. And at first, I wasn't trusted as a doctor, even when people were really in need. I also experienced racism on 2 occasions. Once, when a man shouted at me from his car and the police were right there next to me, they didn't do anything. Another time, immigration officers at the airport stopped me and my whole family after a holiday and demanded my passport and all my papers. But there were also some positive moments. Most people were nice. I once was asked to do a lumbar puncture on a boy brought in with suspected meningitis, and I did it successfully. People were astonished, as I had done 300 to 400 of them before. As I said, the British are for the most part actually genuine about accepting immigrants. I found it easy to integrate and quickly became part of the community. I was meeting many people and there were many resources available. When I look at my kids today, they are very British, but also very Indian.
Thank you so much, Nevin. Now let us take a look at what statistics tell us about immigration to the UK during this era. In the year 1961, the biggest share of immigrants who came to England were Irish, around 683,000 people, and the next two countries combined were still fewer than half of the amount of Irish immigrants. Furthermore, the data shows that in 1861, there was already a significant number of people in the UK who were born in foreign countries. Compared to 10 years before, the numbers had increased by nearly 1% of the population. The chart underlines that during this period, immigration was already a growing trend, and by 2011, 13.4% of the total population of England and Wales had been born abroad, totaling 7.5 million people. So, as we have heard today, immigration to the UK between the 1950s and 70s was shaped by great courage, economic necessity, political expulsion, and the dream of a better life. Our guests came from Pakistan, Hong Kong, and Uganda, each with a unique story and each contributing to the rich cultural tapestry of a modern Britain. This decade was characterized by both great challenges and remarkable resilience. It has become clear that the story of immigration is not one of burden, but of contribution. Thank you to Maulana, Kwai, and Nevin for sharing their stories. And thank you for listening to Ethnic and Cultural Diversity in Great Britain. This was Just Investigating. Have a great night.